My wife once told me she thought I was predictable, the type of partner who would never leave. But on our anniversary, I blindsided her with divorce papers. There's no pain quite like discovering what someone truly thinks of you. You spend your life believing they love you for who you are, only to find out it was all a facade. The betrayal cuts deeper than words can describe, and I'm still reeling from it all. I'm a 31-year-old man, and I met my wife, Cassie, when we were in college, over 10 years ago. She's 30 now. We were polar opposites back then. I was the quiet, reserved type, always in my dorm studying or reading. Cassie was the opposite, a social butterfly with a magnetic personality. She made friends effortlessly, adored going out, and her social media was a highlight reel of cocktails, group selfies, and vibrant nights out. By all logic, we shouldn't have worked, but somehow we did. After graduation, we got married. I landed a good job, and Cassie took some time to figure out her career. I was supportive. Marriage is about being a team, right? But over the years, I realized that figuring things out was more of a pattern for her. She'd start something, lose interest, and move on. When she said she wanted to go to law school, I was hesitant but hopeful. She showed me an acceptance letter and insisted she was serious. I paid the tuition without hesitation, eager to see her succeed. For months, I believed she was attending classes, meeting peers, and building a future. Then little cracks began to show. She'd go out late, claiming to be with study groups, but she seemed far too relaxed for a law student. I started asking questions, and while her answers sounded convincing, her behavior didn't match up. One night, she came home late and drunk, claiming she'd been with her study group. Suspicious, I asked to see her textbooks or any photos from the night. She stammered and gave flimsy excuses. That's when I knew she was lying. Later that night, while she slept, I checked her phone. No photos, no texts, and none of the friends she'd mentioned even existed in her contacts. My heart sank as the truth unraveled. Her so-called study sessions, friends, and law school ambitions were all fabrications. I couldn't believe the person I'd built my life around was capable of such deceit. What hurt most wasn't just the lies, but the realization that our partnership, the foundation I thought was solid, had been one-sided for so long. Now, as I sit here processing everything, the pain is still raw. But one thing is clear. No relationship can survive on empty promises and illusions. I was certain now, nothing was as it seemed. Her so-called friends were non-existent, and my doubts about her being a student spiraled out of control. In a moment of desperation, I delved into her emails, searching for any correspondence from her college. What I found, or rather, what I didn't find, left me stunned. 3 emails from the school. One congratulated her on her admission. The other 2 were reminders about overdue tuition payments. That was it. No confirmations of payment, no updates on course registrations, nothing. My stomach dropped. Was she even a student at all? Determined to uncover the truth, I logged into her college's student portal. The username and password fields were blank, untouched. The login link was still blue. She hadn't even visited the site. My fury boiled over. If she wasn't at school, what was she doing all day? And what had she done with the money I gave her? Still seething, I dug deeper. Her social media DMs told another story, one I wish I hadn't read. There were no messages with classmates, study groups, or professors. Instead, I found conversations with people I didn't recognize. Then I found Mark. Their messages started harmlessly enough but quickly turned flirtatious and, soon after, graphic. Photos were exchanged, and plans were made, plans that coincided with the times she was supposedly in class. My chest tightened as I read on. The money I'd given her to pay for college? It funded hotel stays and trips with him. I was devastated. I had worked so hard to support her dreams, only to be betrayed. But the real punch to the gut came when I saw what they said about me. She complained to Mark about how boring and predictable I was, how I worked too much, and how I didn't take her out enough. Never mind that I provided for her entirely and took her on dates regularly. It wasn't enough. When Mark asked if she was worried about me finding out, she laughed. "He's too weak to leave me," she wrote. Even if he knew, he'd just mope and forgive me. I was livid. At that moment, Our marriage was over in my mind, but I didn't wake her. Instead, I resolved to handle it in my own way. The anniversary surprise. 2 weeks passed. Living under the same roof as her was unbearable, but I played along, letting her believe nothing was wrong. She even suggested a vacation, oblivious to my growing disdain. Meanwhile, I planned my exit. Our anniversary finally arrived. She was thrilled when I told her I'd planned a special dinner at her favorite restaurant. She got all dolled up, asking me how she looked. I told her she looked great, though I no longer cared. Dinner began uneventfully. We ordered, made small talk, and she seemed convinced the tension had lifted. After dessert, I pulled out the envelope I'd been carrying all night. She opened it, expecting something romantic. Instead, she found an invoice for the tuition money she had wasted. Her face paled. She stammered, trying to explain, but I cut her off. "Don't dig yourself any deeper," I said coldly. Then came the second envelope. She hesitated but opened it with trembling hands. Her body sagged when she saw the divorce papers inside. She pleaded, promising to pay me back, to go back to school, to do whatever it took. I reminded her of her words to Mark, how I was too weak to leave her. Her tears stopped as realization dawned. I knew everything. I didn't stop there. I told her I had already canceled her credit cards and drained the joint account. I was leaving that night and would return for the rest of my things in the morning. The look on her face was priceless. Life after lies. 2 months later, the divorce was finalized. My lawyer had no trouble leveraging her infidelity to block her alimony requests. She ended up moving back in with her parents, broke and jobless. I've since moved on, both physically and emotionally. I rebuilt my life without her toxicity, finding peace in the process. She tried reaching out to me once, begging for another chance, but I blocked her number without a second thought. Her betrayal says everything about her character and nothing about mine. She underestimated me, and now she has to live with the consequences of her actions. To anyone going through something similar, don't let them break you. Take back your life, your peace, and your happiness.